This is Chris with Space Cabin Audio. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to properly program a 4-on-the-floor beat. Let's do it. The 4-on-the-floor beat is usually one of the first beats you're going to learn, either the first or second, but it's an early beat if you're learning how to play the acoustic drum set. In this video, I want to show you how to properly get feel out of your 4-on-the-floor programming. Here in the MIDI editor, I already have my hi-hats set up properly, the way that I want them programmed. If you watch my first video on how to properly program closed eighth note hi-hats, you'll understand what I'm doing here. You'll see that I have eighth notes set up on the grid. I have the first one quite loud on the closed shank articulation. I have the second one quieter on the tip articulation. The third one louder than the second one, but not as loud as the first on the closed shank. And the fourth, quieter than the second, but again on the closed tip articulation. Let's take a listen to how this sounds. This is right on the grid and it's pretty sterile. We're going to fix that in a little bit. Next, we want to get in our kick and our snare. I'm going to change my grid value to quarter note, which it is. Perfect. I'm going to change my default note velocity to 110. I like to start there. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm only drawing in 16th notes while I do this. Just makes everything more uniform. So I'll come to my kick, and here we go. Let's take a listen. There's our kick drum. Now I'm going to program in the snare on the 2 and 4 of each bar. Let's take a listen now. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Here we have a 4-on-the-floor beat with a decent sounding hi-hat, but it's not exactly perfect. What we have is a perfect program. We don't want that. A real drummer will never sound perfect. Let me draw your attention to this area right here. We'll see that all three of these are hitting at the exact same time. A real drummer would never ever have this happen. The hi-hat might be a little early, the snare might be a little earlier, the kick might be a bit late. We have to stagger these out when we are programming any beat in particular, but especially when kit pieces are hitting at the same time. We also have to keep in mind what the drummer's intent was while we are programming. So what do I mean by what was the drummer's intent? Often a drummer will push the click, meaning intentionally play early to kind of speed up the band or give a sense of tension. Or they'll play late to give the song a more relaxed feel, or they'll try and play right on the click to make it sound very robotic. In reality, a real drummer can never make that happen, but we have to keep that intention in mind while we're programming. So let's take a look at how we can adjust the timing to give the drummer's intent. I'm just going to adjust the length of these notes. Since these are just one shots, they don't actually need to be eighth note long. They could be 16th note long, and I want them to be similar to the kick and the snare. So I'll just hit apply, and there we go. They're all the same. Perfect. Now let's take a look at how we can make this happen. I want this drum part to feel a little bit pushed. Having said that, I usually will start right on the grid with my kick and or snare or the dominant drum piece at the first bar, just so that it loops a little bit better. So I'll pull this a little bit back so they're not hitting at the exact same time. Now I come here, I'm going to push this one just a bit forward. I'm going to bring this one just a bit forward. Now we have 3 kit pieces hitting at the same time. So I want them all to feel a little bit rushed, but you'll notice that I moved the hi-hat earlier. I'm going to bring the kick late, and I'm going to bring the snare up just a little bit. So now we have this staggered drum part, and it's on average forward, but the kick is just a little bit behind. I'll bring this just a little bit forward, this a bit forward, and just a little bit forward, not much. Bring that up. Now, you'll notice here that the hat is a little late. I'm going to push this hat a little bit late, and I'm going to bring the snare just a little bit early and the kick just a little bit early. So we have this staggering and this random staggering that would actually happen with a real drummer. So here I'm going to bring this a little late, but I'm going to bring this a little early. And we're just going to try and stagger these out, keeping in mind that we want the overall feel to be early or slightly early, a little bit pushed, remembering the drummer's intent, while also keeping in mind the physical nature of drumming and that you cannot be perfect when you are drumming, no matter how hard you try. I know I've met drummers that say they can be, but I've yet to record one. We'll go through here, and you'll notice that it's just pushing it ever so slightly. There's nothing major going on here, just a little bit here and there. Really, really minimal in terms of where we're putting things. Okay, we're done. Let's take a listen to what we have right now. That feeling is already so much better than it was when it was just straight on the grid perfectly. Let's take a listen again. We also have to keep in mind, again, what is the drummer trying to achieve with this groove? They're not always going to play the exact same velocity. We have to think about, where is the drummer going to push on the beat? This is going to be decided by what's in the song, but for this particular case, I'm just going to make it up. But we're going to create that pattern within a pattern so that the drums have a very specific feel to them. Even though they're going to feel a little bit rushed, we're going to give them a totally different feel than what they have right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up this first kick hit quite a bit louder. I'm going to bring down the second one, and I'm going to bring up the third one just a little bit, but not as much as the first. And I'll bring down the second or the third one as well. And I'm going to continue this pattern. So you'll notice at the start of each bar, I'm really pushing the kick. And in the middle of the bar, I'm pushing it, but not as much. You'll also notice that I'm really not paying attention to how far I'm going with it. I'm not being overly aggressive, but I'm also not making them all exactly the same, because a real drummer, they would never be exactly the same. Okay, let's take a listen to this now. We now have this tick-tock kind of feel with it. The first kick is like, doo, and the third one is like, duh. Not quite as loud. Let's listen again. So much better than where we started from. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to randomize these snares up just a little bit. I'm not going to overly push them around, just a little bit up and down here and there. Just a few velocity points just to give it a little variation. And you'll notice that I'm just kind of randomly doing it. I'm not paying attention on if I'm going loud, quiet, loud, quiet, loud, quiet, because a real drummer would never do that. Let's take a listen to it now. So much better. Let's listen again. Now we have some feel in this groove. It's not so stale. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you learned something about programming a 4-on-the-floor beat. This is Chris with Space Cabin Audio, and I'll see you in the next video. Talk to you soon. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, check out some of our drum libraries at spacecabinaudio.com.